The World Team Championships of 40k is coming up, and I've got an army to paint. Painting an army doesn't start with a paintbrush, it starts with a bunch of decisions. Now, the decisions are based off color scheme and what your batch size is and all that sort of thing. We're going to go into that later on in the video. Now, this army that I'm trying to finish in time for the World Championships, which is going to be done in time, it's just how good it is, is going to be my Imperial Guard. So, effectively, I've got all the boxes. I've recently built 15 Scions and got most of the way finished. And I've also got 20 Cadians, the command squad, and 3 Krieg heavy weapons, some Gaunt's Ghosts, 2 Krieg combat engineer squads, and that's what I've got mostly painted so far. Now, at this point, it's just OSL and basing to do on, like, some of it. But apart from that, it's mostly done. But in the video, I'm going to talk about my approach here, my process, exactly sort of like my batch size, and sort of like my approach to army painting as a concept. And a message to the algorithm, please do drop a like and subscribe on the video. We love that stuff. It means that I can get my video out to more people and they can look at it and maybe like it as well. So, first of all, let's talk about how we're going to define the success of this army. Now, every time I pick up an army, I sort of have a goal in mind and a sort of thought process that I want to go through to try and really nail down a color scheme. Now, sometimes this is going to be trying to get an army to a best painted level and get it to the point where it's going to try and wow people when you go there, try and win a best painted prize, or maybe even just try and win a best singular miniature, and all that sort of thing. Now, here, this army is not going to be doing most of that. It's going to be trying to get to a solid, good tabletop standard. Now, for me, I think that's going to be a reasonable challenge to get it all to the level that I want it. All of the colors that I'm looking at have 3 or 4 layers of highlights, and then I'm doing oil washes, transfers, and all that sort of thing. So between all of that, it does add up over time, but I'm pretty sure I can have a good go at getting this done. And also with the characters, I want to put in a little bit more time, and I want my characters to look a little bit better. So the overall goal is to have this army be on the table, not just look like a 3-color, done and get it on the table. I want this to look cool because it's the first time I'm going to represent my own home country, England. So I'm going to be playing on the team this year. It's going to be really fun. I played on Team UN last year and as like a ringer, which is when you have an odd number of teams. But this year, I'm actually playing for the home team, which is super fun and super exciting. Ultimately, my goal isn't to have every single guardsman be able to win a best painted miniature competition. What I want is it all to look solid. I want some decent highlights on there. I want some good use of light and some good use of grime here and there with oil washes. And I want some cool transfers to really tie it all together. Now, I think I've achieved that so far in what I've got. Ursula, I'm really happy with as well. Ursula came out really nice, to be honest. I didn't expect it to come out that nice, but hey, I'll take the win. And the Castellan as well. The OSL, I use some fluoro paint from the Green Stuff World range. Super cool. It's the orange. I think I've got it literally to the right of me. Yeah, here we go. It is fluoro translucent, fluorescent orange yellow, which is super fun. And I really like that orange. It's turned out, like, create this really magma-y, hot plasma sort of look, which is really, really cool. So next, let's talk about the color scheme. Let's talk about the choice of color. Now, for me, I think Guardsmen should be green, and that's just my view of Guard. Now, ultimately, there are some fantastic color schemes out there. Like, I really love the red and black. I really love the use of browns and camo and all that sort of thing across a fair few different armies as well. Looks fantastic. Also, I like the street camo sort of thing with like the gray and the white and the blue, the camo all over, that sort of thing. Now, for me, I'm not going to be using camo. So I actually want this to look like a grimed up Imperial Guard army that's been through the trenches and is trying to get home. So ultimately, I'm going to be doing that with pigments. I'm going to be doing that with oil washes. I'm going to do that with weathering and using a sponge and all that sort of thing. And the color scheme itself, I'm going to be going for a dark green into a light green. Now, I think this is a really cool green that I actually achieved here. I've been doing the Scions with the airbrush, and then I've been doing the Cadians with a brush. So blending the green on the Cadians is a little bit challenging, but ultimately they don't have to be perfectly blended, but the green itself has actually turned out pretty okay so far. It hasn't actually taken an immense amount of time. The Vallejo greens are really good to work with. I'm basically using dark green and Scorpio green, doing blending up to it, and that's as simple as that gets. After that, a black oil wash for the pin in the recesses, and then we're good to go. I also want some gold trim because I'd like it to have a nice set of gold trim everywhere. The gold itself is just going to be green stuff, pigment powder, and a bit of metallic paint. I think the exact mix together is gold oro from the Vallejo metal color. It's like a sort of burnished old gold, and then antique gold from the Green Stuff World pigment range. Now, I don't think it massively matters what metallic you mix with this. You can also just mix it with varnish, like that works as well. Because I've seen people just use like metallic medium and just mixing it in, or gloss varnish and then painting it over. So the gold actually worked out really easy. It goes over in one coat, which is mental to me for gold, because I'm having trouble with gold for ages. I used to use retributor armor for everything. I had to do like 2 or 3 coats of that just to get it smooth, or you go one really lumpy coat, and it didn't really vibe well with me. But ultimately, this metallic worked out really, really nice. I was like, I cannot like stress how this was literally one coat and an oil wash and it's done. Now, obviously, you can go a bit further, you can highlight the trim and all that sort of thing, but I've got a lot of cyanide to paint and a lot of trim to paint, so I'm not going to highlight all the trim. Next, we're going on to the browns. I do want this like brown that looks like it's been like worn leather and all that sort of thing. Now, a really cool way to do that is picking the same tones that you're trying to highlight with. So anything that I can use a sunny skin tone, which is from the Vallejo range, to highlight, I will use that to highlight other things. Like I used it to highlight the black, not directly, but mixed it in with the black. I use it to highlight the brown as well, to make it have like that uniform look that the one light source is sort of giving off the same hue. And yeah, that worked out really well for me. The browns turned out really nicely and that sort of thing. Metallic is super. The actual silvers are super simple. I'm just using Vallejo gunmetal, and then I am oil washing it, and then I'm highlighting it with a silver. So I think it's a Vallejo, yeah, the Vallejo silver. So then after that, it's pretty much done. And the actual scheme itself doesn't take an immense amount of time to paint, but it's starting to look really cool. I'm really happy with the results that I'm getting so far. When you're looking at this army from a distance, I want big blocky highlights that you can see. I don't really care too much about, you know, refined, tiny little edge highlights. I want the OSL to do work. I want the volumetric highlights on the armor to come across as correct and something that you can actually imagine the light hitting, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm aiming for. And also the cloaks on the cloak on Ursula was done the exact same way. And then I'm also spotting in some reds. I'm just throwing some reds somewhere, like the inside of a cloak here and there, or like one of the bandanas on the Gaunt's ghosts and all that sort of thing, which I think actually turned out pretty cool as well. And that is the color scheme. That's it. And after that, I'm just doing a brown base with some yellow ochre pigment powder over the top, which I basically turn into a wash with thinner and water, and then apply it really thinly, and it creates this sort of like dusty sort of effect, which is what I'm going for. So yeah, that is the color scheme, and let's move on to the next section. When I first started to paint the army, I decided to do one test model, which was just a random guardsman. So I'm going to show you that random guardsman. Now, this is the examples of all the colors that I mentioned earlier. Now, this guy was actually really not successful the first time I did this. When I first painted him, I found that the cream wasn't quite right. I found that the green placement didn't really work very well. And also the first pass at the green, I didn't use dark green. I used Cayman green because I thought that was like more a military sort of like duller green that might be seen as probably a little bit better, but it didn't work. Whether it was because it didn't blend well with the Scorpio green or what, but like the muted tone from the recesses wasn't very saturated, which then sort of washed out the green, and I wasn't a massive fan of it. So I got back to the drawing board, and I basically went back to dark green, because dark green blending up to Scorpio green is a classic green combination that I've been using for a long time, and it's just timeless, and it works really, really well. So I decided to do that, because I'm very familiar with the colors, and I know how they sort of work, and I know that I know how many coats it's going to take, and experience does help in these situations. So if you're going to try and paint an army yourself, and you're very good at painting red, and you know all the reds inside out, you know exactly how many coats it's going to take, or you know how to bump up the like saturation a little bit with like a lighter color and then blending over the top, then do that, because ultimately knowledge is power. So the test model on my belt and army to paint, what was next? For me, it was about time. How much time do I have to paint this army? Because ultimately, if I look at the amount of time I have to paint the army, and it's not even anywhere close to the level that I want to get it to, then I sort of dialed back, put it down to the like core concepts of where your base colors are and how much you can get away with to the point where it looks painted and looks good, and see how many like corners you can cut, but not at the cost of finishing the model early. So it sounds weird when I say it like that, but ultimately, if you're going to cut corners, try and get an army finished in time. What I would recommend is getting the army to the point where you can build on it. So like, if you're going to do an oil wash when it's finished, don't do the oil wash until it's finished. So don't do the oil wash early and cut your process in half and not do that work. What I would recommend is get it to the point where wherever the point you get to, because ultimately most tournaments are okay with like just battle ready. So if you just have everything base coated, then you're okay. And on top of that, every time you take this army to another tournament, you might spend a few more hours here and there and just try to build it up over time. I don't have that luxury, but ultimately most people will, because ultimately getting an army done in 2 weeks isn't the normal vibe. Speaking of 2 weeks, that's how long I have to paint this. I do have a few days off in between off work to try and get this nailed down. But this is the first lot. I did this in batches of 3. So I did the Kriegsman and the Gaunt's Ghost, then I did the Scions and the Sentinel, and then I did the Cadians and Ursula. Now, all the 3 batches overall took me about 5 days or something like that. So, as you can tell, it's taking a little bit of time. But I do think it's starting to look cool, and it's just starting to come together. So my time frame is I have another week, effectively, because I want to just I want to get more games in and get some practice for the event itself. I'd like to get this finished, and in the case, ready for when I fly away to Belgium. So let's talk about batch painting just a little bit more. So everyone has their preferred method of the amount of models they're painting at one time to make sure that they're going to get the army finished, or to make sure that they don't lose quality. So some people can do this in batches of 100, some people can do these in batches of 10, some people do it in batches of 5. I like to go for, especially with small models like this, between the 10 and 15 range. That works for me. However, there are people out there, like I've watched a really good video on this similar sort of topic from Vince Ventrella, and he literally does one model at a time. That's it. Just one model at a time until it's finished, which is mental to me. Which he's a very, very good painter, and it works for him. So whatever. But for me, I'm going to be doing batches where I can utilize the oil wash a lot more, so I can basically get a lot done with the oil wash. Because if I do one model at a time and then having to go back and do oil washes each time, and then having to wait 3 or 4 hours, it doesn't work. Whereas if I have a unit that I've just finished the oil wash on, I can pick up the next unit and start to like prime it and start to zenith it and all that sort of thing, get it ready so that I can get that one all washed and then sort of create this cycle. But that's my workflow. Now, your workflow is just down to you. It's down to you and what you think works. Now, I would recommend if you're just starting, just do a unit at a time, because I think a unit at a time works. If you've got a unit of 5 intercessors, paint a unit of 5 intercessors. If you have a unit of 3 Blade Guard, paint a unit of 3 Blade Guard. If you have a unit of whereas if you got like 20 models, like if you've got 20 Orc boys, I would recommend breaking those down, especially if you're just starting, because there's a lot of detail on Orcs. But generally speaking, between 5 and 10 models is a pretty good, benchmark to go for. But you might find that you can do it all in one go, because some people can. But for me, with this project, between 10 and 15 models at a time, sometimes 20, depending on how I'm feeling. The next important part about this entire process is maintaining motivation. You need to make sure that you can keep painting, because if you don't keep painting, you won't finish your army. It's effectively where we're at. I mean, I don't have a choice, so I'm going to have to keep motivated. But ultimately, you keeping motivated is super important to make sure that you finish your armies. Now, for me, there's a few ways to do this. I decided to throw a few little bits of flair throughout an army, a few bits of painting technique that I may not have done before or may not have done a lot of before. Now, the reason why is if you have a challenge on every model, like not like one that's going to be horrific, like you have to do NMM on every single model, but non-metallic metal for people who don't know. But if you don't have a point of interest on each model that you're going to get excited to do and challenges you a little bit, you can get burnt out. Like, there's a reason why when people start using black to paint in all the little areas that you want, like gun casings, armor joints, and all that sort of thing. There's a reason why people hate that bit, but start to enjoy it when they're starting to paint some power weapons, or they're starting to do some OSL with an airbrush and all that sort of thing. Now for me, I've chosen OSL. OSL is object source lighting. Effectively, you're going to pick a point on the model, it's going to produce a light source, and you're going to have areas affected around that model using that light source. I'm not going to be doing something mental with this. It's just going to be like white oil washes, some airbrushing, and then applying the orange over the top, and then picking out areas with yellow and maybe black out certain on tops of the areas like the plasma guns, because I think that looks cool. But that's the point of interest I've used on this army. Your point of interest can literally be anything. It could literally just be that you want to just try highlighting. Like you might have just painted base coat everything and 3 colors, and that's all you've done throughout your entire hobby career. And you've just seen a few models, and you've gone, you know what? I'm going to highlight this batch and just have a go. You know what I mean? Like that's how you improve in this hobby, because ultimately you could always practice on army figures or Lego, but you need to have something that you're invested in and really care about to sort of, I feel like stakes make you paint better over time. So that's my plan. It's ambitious, but I reckon I can do it. So if you like this sort of content or you want to keep up to date with this, then please do drop a like and subscribe. Hopefully some of the tips here you can sort of pick up and try to implement in your own army painting and all that good stuff. Now, what armies are you painting at the moment? Please do let me know in the comments below. I reply to every single one, and I love seeing what you guys are getting up to. My last video with the Rule of Cool had some really cool engagement on it as well. And the video before that, in terms of why people don't finish in a Warhammer army and their piles of shame, people told me what was in their piles of shame, and it was mental. So thank you very much for everyone who gets involved with that, and I really appreciate it. It really helps, the algorithm like it and lets more people see it. So yeah, guys, until the next one, much love. Bye-bye.